Auburn is doing things on the offensive front that we have never seen before.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining me as he does every single Cruton Thursday, Brian Smith, Locked On Recruiting Insider, Auburn recruiting writer at auburndaily.com. Our recruiting coverage here is brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Course terms and conditions apply. Brian, an Auburn commit, got that coveted fifth star by a major publication. We'll talk about him in a moment, as well as the recruiting drama that follows Alvin Henderson. But Auburn, it seems like they're getting as many offensive linemen on campus as possible. Now, they've always done that. They just haven't really actually been in the hunt for all of these guys. And so we've talked about this before. Tavares Dice, Carday Smith, Ty Buster, Spencer Dolan. There's just so much talent already on this as part of this class. But there were guys who were on campus this weekend. There were very highly touted offensive linemen. They've been predicted by national analysts, other offensive linemen. What is Auburn doing here, and how are they pulling this off?
I think it's just advanced scouting and doing your due diligence. Auburn's put in the effort. I still don't understand how you can be Auburn and they struggled so much, especially at offensive tackle, for as long as they did.
Yeah.
That is a weird algorithm because it's not that hard to get offensive tackles in the Deep South. Auburn found a way to do that, though. Now it's just the opposite. Like we were talking before the show, there are 4 commits. They've got 3 more guys that are legit offensive tackles that are national recruits that either have visited officially or will soon, and all of them have been on campus in one capacity or another, that Auburn is definitively in the mix for. Like, they may get them. So the question is, normally you don't take more than 5 linemen in a class, but Auburn has struggled at that spot out of the high school ranks. Do you take 6? Would you go set? Like, if all 3 of these guys, they're elite players, do you turn down an elite tackle? I say no, because if you look at the portal this spring, what 2 spots everybody was looking for? Offensive tackle, defensive tackle. It takes too long to develop them. So if you can kind of curb that a little bit and start developing some of your own guys, and like Auburn got lucky, got Percy Lewis in the offseason. That was a huge game. We haven't talked about that enough. Finding left tackle is really hard. You're not going to do that every year. You got to get some of these elite kids. And if you put more bullets in the gun, you got more chances to find what you need. So I think they should take all of them.
Yeah. So the 3 guys that you're hinting at and discussing, kind of tell us about those 3 guys real quick.
All right. Mr. Scholl is from Oklahoma. He's from
Roderick
Bixby.
Scholl. Yep.
Yeah. He's been to campus. He's going to come again here pretty soon for an OB. Very much an outdoorsy guy. Interviewed him a while back. Great kid. Very smart. Just kind of fits Auburn. His other visits are a little random. And it's just one of those things, like, he could go to a Texas if he wanted, but one of his OVs is Texas Tech. Like, so he's just a different guy. I could see him totally picking the Tigers. Another kid just visited is Malachi Goodman from Paramus Catholic in New Jersey. It's a prominent program. Offers from all over the place. He's a guy that I'm like, when I saw the visit, I'm like, New Jersey kid, Auburn, I don't know, but he had a great visit. I need to wait a few more days and get some more intel, let the visit wear off. But they really did a great job on it. Again, Auburn doesn't get many kids from the Northeast, but he's a national top 150 kid by 247, 315 pounds, and they're recruiting him as a tackle. His film is legit. And then the last guy, I don't know how many times you're going to look at Auburn and say, well, they got not 1, but 2 elite tackles on campus the same weekend. Like, Malachi's really, really good, and I'm not taking anything away from that. But they also bring in another kid that I don't think is just a good player. I think he could be good at guard. I think he could be good at tackle. And Auburn, honestly, you got to have some guards too. But Andrew Babalola from just outside of Kansas City, I don't care where they take him. His film is ridiculous. He's just a special talent. He's a 5-star guy by the On3 industry rankings. Yeah. Offers from everybody: Oklahoma, Michigan, Stanford, Auburn. Like, it's national recruitment. Allegedly, Auburn and Stanford, which is a really random combination, are leading for him. But again, I don't care if they play him at guard, tackle, or whatever. You just got to get this kid elite athleticism, and he's 300-pounder. It's a guy that could play very early at any school in the country.
Yeah. So if you're Auburn and you think you're in a spot to land these other offensive linemen, is there any concern of like, okay, if we add one of these guys, what if somebody decommits? Can you operate that way? Or is it just kind of, this is what makes coaching so hard at this level? It's the constant balance of all of this.
It's a great question. Are you going to lose kids in every class? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Even under the best of times under Saban, Alabama would have kids decommit. It just happens. Kids look out for their own best interest. Now, realistically, I know they can't comment specifically on recruits, but anybody in Auburn's office probably didn't think they'd be in this spot for this many elite players. I mean, Tavares Dice, when they got him, you were like, wow, we got a great tackle. And you were just about one.
Right.
How many times has Auburn been in a chance to get 2, 3, 4, and like Spencer could play tackle? I mean, almost all of these guys could play it. So I think you're in a scenario where if they want to come, you may have to have uncomfortable conversation because kids are going to be like, hey, what's going on? It's because they're tackles. That's just me. I'm not speaking for Auburn, but I would not turn those guys in as, you know what, we just can't take you. Because you can move tackles to guard. It's rare you move guards to tackle. It happens, but it's pretty rare. So and Auburn's depth chart reflects it. That's why they went after Percy. And rightfully so. He's a really good player. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to have to be in a spot where you're in a hunt for a left tackle every offseason. Eventually, you're going to get smoked on that. Like Notre Dame's in that spot right now. They don't have offensive tackles, and they got a great team. They may lose 2 or 3 games this year just because they're so bad at tackle compared to what they were. They had 2 guys turn pro early. Auburn could be in that spot after losing a couple of guys. You want to recruit as many of these high school kids as you can.
Well, and I kind of wonder what the pitch is, because I don't think it's as much playing time as it used to be, because I think your tackles next year are going to be a combination of, no particular order here, but Favor Edwin, I think, is going to be in a situation where he can make a push. Tyler Johnson, they love that guy. Seth Wilfred that you brought in from the JUCO ranks. I mean, I think he's going to be ready a year from now. And then your interior, honestly, Connor Liu will have another year left before he can declare for the draft. DeAndre Carter, we probably think he'll be close to ready. So, and then I believe Jeremiah Wright has another year as well. So, I mean, you just kind of look at it. It's like these guys aren't going to come in and play right away. So, like, what do you think the sales pitch is? Why is this working all of a sudden?
Relationships would be number one. And just from knowing elite players over the years, they always think they're going to play. And I respect that attitude. Kind of like a buddy of mine gave me this term a long time, and it stuck with me. He calls it Jordan traits. Like, their odds may not show it, but I know I'm going to make the play. I know I'm going to start, whatever. Elite players think in that manner. And like DeAndre Carter, I loved his film. I agree. He'll probably play next year, but he's a guard. You know, and I think that they have a chance to pass up some of these other guys because they're so talented, especially, again, Babaloa. Like, that's a special talent. That's an NFL player. He could play early and just beat somebody out that's older than him. He's the rarest of the rare. So it's not out of the question, but they do have options. And it's about time Auburn had options.
What a great problem to have. It's like, we have too many offensive linemen. What is happening? Hats off to Coach Freeze for pulling it off. I mean, seriously, it's been great. It's been great. Yeah. So, new things happening on the offensive front at Auburn that we haven't seen maybe ever, but definitely has been a really, really long time. A new 5-star is a part of Auburn's class. We talk about that next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. It's winner take all time in the NBA, in the NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a win of your own. It's also a great time for Major League Baseball this time of year. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Brian, according to 247 Sports, Malik Autry is now a 5-star. You've seen him in person recently. I've seen him in person. You know, I live in Opelika, and so it's cool to see one Auburn invests early in local talent, but then the local talent develop into a 5-star, which if you look at this guy, it's like you don't have to ask what number is Malik Autry. Like you can figure it out just by looking. You know what I mean? But it's great to see not only, the frame of Autry, but he's put in the work to figure out how to move that, which isn't always super easy when you're 16, 17, 18 years old.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because Malik's body last year compared to this year, two things happened and they don't normally go together. He gained a bunch of weight and he still looks better. Yeah. Usually when you say a guy gains like 30, 40 pounds, the first thing you do is get nervous. He looks thinner. Like in his I don't know what he did training wise. I don't know how his body adjusted as he's gotten older, but it has worked out. And when he came out onto the practice field a couple weeks ago and I was there, I'm like, I didn't grab the depth chart. I didn't need it. I knew what he looked like. Is.
That's him. Yep.
Because he was, this tall and everybody else is this tall and he just stood out. But he looks the part, man. He looks like a Southeastern Conference defensive tackle.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's kind of like a certain defensive tackle that's now with the Carolina Panthers that used to play at Auburn, but like he's not that kind of athlete. That guy's Brown is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But the frame is there and he's going to be an anchor. He's going to play early at Auburn because even when you double team him, it's hard to push him off the ball, man. That is man strength. And once he gets a year or so into Auburn's strength and conditioning program, that's going to be a problem for every team they have to scheme against. That's why he's a 5-star recruit.
Yeah, that dude is a stalemate against double teams waiting to happen, which
sets up your linebackers, bro.
Right. You and I were talking about linebackers before we clicked record. And so, projecting a few years into the future, like when DeMarcus Riddick and DJ Barber are really starting their ascension, It's going to be guys like that in front of them that help set that up.
You can't go wrong with the defensive tackle spot being strong. If you look at the teams that win the title, every year they have somebody in the middle. You go, man, we got to figure out a way to get this guy away from the ball carrier. And most teams can't. And that's why they go to the playoffs. Bama, Georgia, LSU, etc. Auburn needed some of those guys. It's kind of nice that he's from Opelika, but they still went and got him. And I'm sure a lot of teams are still going to try to pry him away, but I think he's going to end up at Auburn.
Yeah, and I guess it's a good thing, especially with all the news that happened with Florida this week. Florida getting sued by a current college football player. It's insane. Yeah, but insane. It seems like Florida's the biggest threat, and I just don't think there's any kind of way. I've pivoted. I thought he could survive it because the schedule was so ridiculous. I think the news of them getting sued by Rashada or whatever, I just don't know how. It just looks so bad in Florida.
Well, ironically, in that lawsuit, and somebody broke it down, Pete Nakos or whatever from On3, Napier himself is being sued.
It's wild.
One of the staffers, and then some guy that's a rich guy, their main booster, him and his company are being sued. Like, that is a really broad stroke, and lawyers will throw mud at a wall. I get it. But when I'd never imagined the head coach being, because he's not the one paying the money, but like there's talk about like fraudulent claims and all this, and that gets really naughty. So parents are not going to like hearing that. And I'm sure Autry would like his NIL money and not being skimmed on. That's going to hurt Florida for a lot of kids, Autry included.
No doubt. And I'm not an attorney. I don't know. I don't think if I had to guess, nothing's going to happen from that lawsuit, but it looks awful. It looks terrible. And so we talk about recruiting, and if it's down to Auburn and Florida, it's like, which position do you trust more? Like, are you kidding? Like, that's one of these programs is clearly going the right way, and the other one is stuck down low, and they keep saying it's coming. Napier's time is coming. And then stuff like this keeps happening. I'm just not buying it anymore. So that could, I think that's huge. The same week that Malik Autry gets that 5th star is when Florida gets sued and their head coach is getting sued. I think for this recruiting battle specifically, I think Auburn probably is taking a big step forward.
I don't know how they couldn't. It's hilarious. The only thing with this, I imagine it'll get settled because Florida wants this to go away.
Damage has been done, though. The damage has been done. Yeah, I mean, you can.
Oh yeah, if Rashada has all the cards, so it's going to help all the schools recruiting against Florida. I'm sure Miami and Florida State in particular are very, very happy.
Oh yeah. No, I think everybody's happy about this except for Florida. Except for Florida.
Oh, well, it is what it is.
It's just wild that a player that plays for Georgia now is suing Florida's head. I love that he waited till he got to Georgia to file the suit, which is just so SEC it hurts. You know what I mean?
That does fit because there is a lot of backstabbing in this league. There's reportedly Kirby signed off on him doing this. Like, he talked to him about it. Kirby's like, can you do it now? That'd be my guess. Because like Kirby grew up a Dog, played there, and now coached there. He probably hates Florida. I get it. So yeah, like what's he going to say? No. I thought that was funny. Yeah. I'm sure he signed off rather quickly, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. It's like, let me know if you need any help. Seriously. Hey, let's pivot to Alvin Henderson. Talked about him a little bit on yesterday's show. As soon as he committed, you and I talked about it. It's like, sure, he's committed to Penn State, but like, is he actually committed to Penn State? It never really felt like he was committed to the Nittany Lions. Are you buying all the national smoke? I mean, you're seeing several folks now put predictions that he will flip from Penn State to Auburn. I assume you're seeing this coming from a mile away, just like the rest of us.
Just from talking to the brethren on the recruiting trail here in Auburn, Christian at 247, Cole at On 3, etc. I don't know anybody that thinks he's going to end up at Penn State. And maybe that's just because we're around Auburn. But it seems like every time you and me, or just like me and Cole walk out to practice, there's Alvin. Oh, there's Alvin. Every time.
Here. Yeah.
So I'm like, why would he sign with Penn State? I'm sure he's enamored, he's a South Alabama kid. It's something different. It's a new type of candy, but at the end of the day, you still need your steak and potatoes, and that's less than 2 hours from your home.
Yeah.
It's Auburn University. So I could be wrong. Prove me wrong. But I say Alvin ends up signing with the Tigers.
Yeah, you mentioned like us being around Auburn's campus, but you know who else is always around Auburn's campus? Alvin Henderson. Like,
he could give tours at this point. For real.
Yeah. I'm sure he knows that place like the back of his hand. So, we'll see. I'm still just not buying that he's actually committed. So, what's next for Auburn's class? They're in a great spot, but what does it need next? Let's speculate in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance, it's a great app. It's easy to use. The website is great as well. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investments or retirement accounts all in one place? Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio. Yahoo Finance is one of the most trusted names in investing for over 25 years. They've been the brand behind every great investor. So let's say you got a 401k in one place, you've got Roth IRAs somewhere else, maybe you got retirement accounts spread out. They can bring it all together and kind of show you everything you need to see and what the market's doing on any given day. So for comprehensive financial news and analysis, this is the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, that is yahoofinance.com. Brian, when you look at Auburn's 2025 class, after the addition of Dante Core, they are 9th in the country, 4th in the SEC. This is without them having a running back. This is without them having a quarterback. Without them having really any kind of offensive skill weapon outside of tight end with Ryan Gee. So, what do you think is next? Like, is Juju Lewis next? Is getting some of these big name wide receivers next? Do they kind of put more pressure on Alvin Henderson to get him to flip? Like, what do you see as possibly the next move for building out this 2025 class?
Well, they just had Osmond Croma on campus. He's from Lee County. It's a great program in central Georgia, just outside Albany. I could see somebody like that making a decision somewhat soon. Okay. Georgia and Florida State, so between now and the middle of next month. Running back in general, Shakai Mills-Knight, the kid from Baylor School in Chattanooga, maybe. That's a kid that's very high on Auburn. I chatted with him a little bit the other day. But it's really hard to pick which one because we're to the point where so many kids take visits. It's at one domino falls at a school and a kid loses a chance, then they fall into your lap and vice versa.
Yeah.
So I think Auburn will get several commits between now and about the 20th of June. It's just which order do they happen? That's a little harder. I'm hoping a running back is one because they need 2 guys in this class. We've talked about that before. So like if they got Chroma to go along with a certain guy that's now the person giving all the tours, as we were talking about a minute ago, that'd be a great 1-2 punch, but there are a lot of options. And they need to get a big play receiver. I'm excited to see Caleb Cunningham come to campus. He's elite. His film is nasty. He's a kid from Mississippi. They're not favored for him, but having Nix on campus now, used to be at Ole Miss. He knows that state well. Maybe they could flip him. That's a kid that he's not Cam Coleman, but he's like just below. Phenomenal player. He could play early. They could get somebody like that. They'd be trending towards a top 5 class.
Hey, let's peek ahead to the 2026 class.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, and this is a guy that you know fairly well. Jamichael Garrett, 4-star linebacker, Gulf Shores kid. Top 10 player in the state of Alabama. What you've talked to him? I mean, what stands out when you've gotten to know this guy? Very,
very easygoing kid. Absolutely can fly as a linebacker. Strong safety linebacker type. Is growing into, I think, being a will. He'll be just over 200 pounds when he enters college. He's 190 or so now. But he was one of the reasons Gulf Shores won the 5A state title last year. He was probably their most talented player on the roster as a sophomore. And quite honestly, this is the kind of guy you have to have in the SEC now to play against teams that can throw the ball. You can't have linebackers that can't cover. J-Mike, as we call him, is a 3-down backer. LSU offer, Auburn, several other, Tennessee.
Yeah.
This is a big-time player. Auburn, if they can get him early, I guess that's, I didn't see it coming. I saw come across my Twitter feed that he's going to announce next month. I'm like, that's got to be Auburn. Like, they've been on him hard. I saw him on campus, etc. That would be my pick. I don't know if LSU might be the second most likely, but this is a great scoop for Auburn if they can get him early, because this is a kid that's going to have 30 offers. So good for the Tigers.
Yeah, he's going to make his decision June 19th. He announced that. And after he announced it, he followed me, which is usually a pretty decent sign that they're coming to Auburn. So we'll see. But he listed all the schools that he's picking from, Brian. I did this on the show yesterday, but I want to hear your reaction. Tell me which school is missing from a top 10 player in the state of Alabama. These are the schools that he's deciding between: Auburn, Miami, LSU, Michigan, Mississippi State, North Carolina State, and Tennessee. Who's missing, Brian?
Alabama.
What's up with that?
I talked to him about it a while back, right before he kind of blew up. Alabama's like most kids. That's the school he kind of followed growing up, but I'm going to go where it's best. But, Alabama's the school I followed. And I don't think they're like after him like some of these other schools. And I laugh about it because this reeks of a situation where he's going to commit to Auburn. And at 6 months, Alabama's going to offer him and try for a year to flip it. Why they haven't offered him yet, I have no idea. Everybody else did. I don't know. Like you screw around with something like this, you can lose a good thing real quick.
Yeah.
If they'd have offered him early, he probably goes to Bama. They didn't. So that's on them.
Oh, well, you hate to see it. You hate to see it. Yeah, and a quote that he said to 247, he said he just wanted to kind of go ahead and commit early and kind of get everything locked in. So everybody's mentality, every recruit's what they want out of a school is different. Their view towards recruiting and when they should commit and all that, it's all different. But I love guys that want to commit early and lock in early. So we'll see if that happens and if Auburn's the school on June 19th. But sounds like you're a fan of him. So Auburn's got 2 commits already in the 2026 class. They've got Denarius Gray, who's a wide receiver, and then offensive lineman Cale Ellis, who could be a great part of the future, part of this offensive line. So we'll see if he becomes that third member of Auburn's 2026 class, which doesn't really feel like a real year, but we're already talking about it.
That's just the way recruiting is now.
Yep.
If you're not involved heavily with 26 kids, you're in danger of being lapped. Not just passed, but lapped. Yeah. So Auburn's doing their due diligence and getting out in the front of this, and they're leading for a lot of the top players in the state for next year, and it's a really good year in 26.
Yep. Brian, how can people check out everything that you've got going on?
At FBScout_Florida on X and at auburndaily.com. or auburndaily.com. Recruiting is going to be our main focus the next couple of months. Auburn's going to be involved with a lot of players.
Yep. Be sure to read all of our stuff at auburndaily.com. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.